Hi, and welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast. I'm your host, Jody, and I created this show to have honest, candid conversations about mental health in an effort to help reduce the stigma. I am issuing a trigger warning, as many of the topics we discuss may be highly sensitive for some. If you are having suicidal thoughts, please reach out to someone, go to your local hospital, or call a crisis line. In the United States, call 1-800-273-8255. In Canada, 1-833-456-4566. On today's show, we'll be discussing men's mental health and borderline personality disorder with a very good friend of mine, Dennis Ellis. Now let's get into the show. Dennis, welcome to the show. Thank you so much, honey.
Oh, thank you very much, Jody. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, it's awesome. I feel like I know you for so long, and we've only kind of known each other online for a couple of years. I had the pleasure of meeting you that once, but I just feel like we have that connection where I feel like I've known you for 10 years, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I feel the same. I'm always checking in, and we're always saying hi to each other.
Absolutely.
Always keep in contact. I make sure I want to say hi to you, and you've become like such a dear friend of mine that I constantly want to say hi and keep in touch with you.
Good, that's awesome. Same way. I feel the same way. So what's going on? How's things?
Doing well. Working a lot, but other than that, I'm just surviving as best I can.
Yeah, I hear you. What were you diagnosed with?
So I just probably back in September, I finally got a proper diagnosis. September of last year, with the mental health nurse and psychologist and a couple counselors with major depressive disorder, social anxiety, and borderline personality.
We have three things in common.
So it was kind of, after all these years, it was kind of, I don't want to say nice. It was kind of like a relief to actually get a diagnosis, and then that way you can kind of focus your energy on what the actual issues are. And just took a long time for me to actually go and go through the steps to talk to some professional people. Just because I wanted to know, but I didn't want to know. It was really, I just didn't want to find out what the actual diagnosis was. So it was like, drag my heels, and I was like, I went in and finally I had to do it. And when I did, it was kind of a relief to know, okay, so this is what the issues are. Now you can focus on specific things to try to take the edge off and make yourself somewhat feel better. But everyday thing that I'll live with for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with that. I just do what I can.
Yeah, I do the same way. Borderline is so up and down daily, like so many times I can switch moods like 50 times in one day. And I think it's hard to explain to people that it's not intentional. Literally, like the easiest simple thing, which would never be a trigger on another day, but it just all of a sudden is a trigger today, and all of a sudden your mood just goes like on a roller coaster all day long.
Absolutely. It's the worst feeling that sometimes you can feel it coming on, like even just waking up, sometimes it's today's gonna be a bad day. And then it just takes something really minor that it wouldn't affect anybody in any sort of way. It can just put you into a rage. For me, it comes out in like a rage, like an anger, and then that'll turn into like just depression. Why did I let this happen? It's gonna happen. You can feel it. So the range just goes up and down. Like the emotions. It's very difficult some days when it's like that can be a day.
Absolutely. And then after the guilt, I personally have the guilt because I lack impulse control sometimes with my mouth. So I will instantly react before I even know what I'm saying. It's like I can hear the words and they're flying out the room, but I cannot get them back. Like it's just, they're just out of reach. And then you spend the rest of the day adding to your depression because now you've got all this guilt about all the shit that you said or did or how you reacted when it's wrong, but you still can't stop it. And I think that for me is so frustrating.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. It's like you get caught, like an old hockey term, caught in the trolley tracks. You just can't veer off. It's like, and for me, I find it happens a lot when I'm in like public space, like public areas. Like shopping isn't so bad. Like, go to Walmart or something. It's not so bad. It's big and it's not overly crowded, but things that are like big crowds or like elevators. I went and saw my wife a few weeks ago. I surprised her at her work for lunch, and she works downtown Toronto. and I was just me and her in the elevator, and then all of a sudden the doors open up and there's like 8 people cram in to the small elevator, and I'm back in the corner and I'm clenching my fist because I'm like, and then I start asking like, why would you get on? You saw there was a small elevator. Why would everybody pile on? And it just set me off, into a bad mood for about 15, 20 minutes. It was like, why would you see 2 people standing here in a small elevator and you keep cramming people in? It's something minor that nobody else would think of, but that bothers me, that kind of thing. And then again, what you said with the guilt, then I feel guilty for feeling that way and thinking that way. It's hard.
It's hard. What prompted you to go get help in the first place? Like, what was that final, like, kind of click?
Well, it's been a long process for me for like 42, and I guess for as long as I can remember, I've always had these feelings, up and down feelings and stuff. That one of my earliest memories was like when I was about 9 or 10. I remember being really depressed around Christmas time. Right at the end of, we opened up our presents, and then later on that night, I just felt like I wanted to cry because it was like Christmas was over. Everybody who always was always at each other's throat, my family always arguing and stuff like that, they were finally nice. And then, everybody gets that Christmas spirit to go away. That was going to go away. And that sent me into a tailspin and when I was a kid. And then so years go by, and then same things over the years, the sadness would turn to anger and rage moments and stuff like that. And it would just, when people get mellow with their old age, people say people get mellow, I was getting worse. And so finally, I guess about 2009, I had a bit of an episode where I was driving away for work, and I would work away from home for about a week. And so I left my ex-wife, who's my ex-wife now, and my young daughter at the time, she was about 3. And I just, for some reason, something told me to drive to the hospital. I went to the hospital, and I just knew, and I went in there to triage, and I just sat there, and they asked me what was wrong. I said, I just don't want to be alone. There's something I don't feel right about. So I don't want to be by myself tonight. And then that started the process of since about 2009, 2010. And so I got on medication back then, and then, but I didn't really commit to it. I just didn't want people thinking, oh, he's on medication, he's depressed, he's this, he's that. I didn't want to be on it. I didn't want to have people think of that of me, especially my family. And then, but what finally I had last May, I had a breakdown. I was just completely stressed out through work, and I was just broke. And I had some issues, alcohol, and it wasn't so much the alcohol. Alcohol would just depress me, and I would mask it. But I got into some bad stuff with drugs just because I was masking everything. And I finally broke. And I talked to my wife now, Penny, and I said, I got to get fixed. And, she was at her wit's end too. So we talked a lot about it, and I started going to see like a counselor and everything. And finally, which led me up to about September of last year, I got diagnosed with a major depressive disorder, social anxiety, borderline personality disorder. And so since then, I've really, it's been a forefront. It's my everyday now. It's my life to try to maintain, try to work on things. I have my bad days still like everybody else, and I'm on the medication. And that's the way, that was kind of my long journey since I was probably about 9 or 10. So
yeah, that's hard. I'm really glad you had the balls to go to the hospital. That takes a lot in itself. I know I hate hospitals. It takes like pretty much someone to drag me in by my hair before I go in, especially around here. I don't know what it's like where you are, but like honest to God, like I've been released twice because I'm not suicidal enough. My friend's a nurse there, and she was in the mental health ward. There's people lined up in the hallway, and a lady was waiting for 4 days for one of the 6 beds in the entire hospital.
That's unacceptable.
It's just like they send you in, you're in for, let's say, 24 hours, 48 at the very most, and they send you home. Then your next appointment is in 4 months. What do you do during that time?
Yep. No, then that's the thing. They just with when I first went that first time to the triage, all they did was they put me in like a little square room, and with one chair and a door with a small window in it, and it makes you feel like you're segregated, and you're.
I feel like a prisoner. I wouldn't let them shut the door completely. I was freaking out that bad that I would not let them shut the door till it locked. I had to leave it open like a little bit space because I felt like I was in jail.
That's what, and yeah, it's a special room for it. Well, at the hospital I went to, it was like this room with it was so sterile, and it was just that didn't help at all. And then the doctor came in, asked maybe 15, 20 questions, tossed me, I think it was a lorazepam under my tongue, dissolved, made me feel sleepy, go home. And that was my first introduction to how things got dealt with when you have mental health issues.
Yeah.
Things are getting better over the years. I mean, there's more people talking about it, obviously, and there's more awareness towards it. But yeah, still, and when I had my break last year, it wasn't that much better, but it was a little like, I mean, they talked to me a lot more. There was more involvement, more resources for me to call and stuff. So, I mean, it was better that way. I mean, it's still sometimes I think it feels like we're still a third world country when it comes to mental health and the responses and the wait times and everything. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, you can't. Everything happens to us. It's real time. It's real time. It's happening right now. Tomorrow might not be as bad, but right now, this is when you need it. Or
tomorrow might not be because it is that bad.
Right.
While you're waiting for 9 months in line, like it's just there's no common sense. It's almost like nobody who has ever made any rules or decisions or anything has ever had an illness.
That's right. I mean, everybody's different, and you can't have like just a generic, one simple set of things for all. Everybody's different. Everybody's reactions are different. I have a big problem with big pharma. I have a problem with them. I have a problem with the medications they have. I know my ex, she has some issues as well. She would go to her doctor and I go to mine. Basically the same symptoms, two different kind of medications. One because her drug rep gives her doctor
free samples for whatever.
My doctor gets, a free golf membership at a nice fancy golf course to push his thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have issues with that kind of thing. Instead of making the patient the number one priority, it's the behind the scenes thing, that you don't see that.
It's a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. They literally just make more money than any other industry in the entire world.
Oh, absolutely.
And at the expense of people's lives, because that's really what it comes down to. Like I'm on my 13th different medication now. After trying, I'll just hand out prescriptions, left, right, and center. And then I'm not going to name the pharmacy that I deal with, but my doctor gives me 3 months of prescriptions at once. So then the pharmacy splits them up. I went in on Saturday to pick them up. Dude, they gave me a grocery bag full. I have over 1,200 pills in my house.
Wow.
What the hell? Like, where is there some accountability for anything? If my doctor knew, I'm sure she'd be snapping.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like, what's going on? I was like, this can't all be meds. I was like, wow, holy crap, who does that? That's crazy amounts of pills.
It is, and I just feel that there's a lot more cures for things than they let on there.
Absolutely.
But you can't make money off, healthy people.
Exactly.
Don't get me started on that one. I could be on that one for days.
Yeah, I hear you. So it sounds like you're doing a little bit better now. I'm happy to hear.
Thank you. Yeah. It was a rough go last year. Pretty much sucked, but it's getting better. But yeah, as you know yourself, it's a daily thing.
It really is. Yeah. Myself going into mental health places, and the last thing I tell them is BPD. I tell them about everything else first, and then if I see the absolute need, then I'll tell them, because when I tell them up front, their mood changes, their attitude changes, they have no idea what they're doing. Yet at the same time, these psychiatrists are handing out BPD as a diagnosis left, right, and center because it encompasses so much. If you look at CPTSD, which did not make it into the DSM-5 this year, but will next time, it is borderline personality disorder. It's basically the same thing. So you're treating a generalized thing. There's no pill for BPD, right?
Oh.
There's pill for the depression and the anxiety and everything else that comes with it. But there's nothing to do but to rewire your brain to fix it, right? It's all a matter of neuroplasticity now.
Yep, and that I love that word. I was just talking to a friend at work about that the other day, talking about neuroplasticity, and I was explaining what it is to him, and he was like, "That's fascinating." It is fascinating, but it's also very misunderstood, and it's very frustrating.
It is.
When you're trying to rewire 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years worth of things. Like it's
unlearning and then having to replace it with not just like a healthy coping mechanism, but it has to be something that works for you. You might go through 30 of them before you find one that actually works. Then there's the process of trying to put it into play before the BPD, which is so quick.
Exactly. And that's where I have been failing more than succeeding, is trying to rewire my thinking. Because for me, I'm not a patient person. I get frustrated really easily with things, and especially this. I find I just want to get myself better quicker. I want to because the guilt feeling that, we discussed earlier, I hate feeling guilty for something I don't mean to do, and I don't want to do it. So then when the guilt sets in, that just keeps you down low, keeps you the depression, it keeps you in that. For me, it's like that dark place. And so, I mean, for me, I get frustrated when I can't train my brain to look at a situation positively or differently, and try my reaction to react differently. Sometimes I succeed, and that's great, and it's a good boost. But then when I don't, that's the worst. It makes all my successes just go away just in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating as hell.
It really is. It's talk to anyone else like the way you talk to yourself. You would never say all the nasty things that you say to yourself out loud to someone else.
And when I first got with my wife now, I'm very self-deprecating, and she would just, I don't talk about yourself like that. And it was just like, everybody has self-esteem issues kind of thing. But then she, I think one day she even said, like, you really think that? Obviously, I don't see you that way. Do you really think like that of yourself? Like, yeah. It was like a no-brainer. So I mean,
you can't understand how other people don't see it. Like, it's blatantly obvious to me. How are you so blind?
Oh, absolutely. And I always said that, I'm harder on myself than anybody else could be. So you don't have to. That was my thing growing up. I'll shit talk myself so that you won't have to. You won't have to say I'm bad at this or bad at that, because I'm already saying it. I'm already thinking it. So you don't have to. So shut up.
Yeah.
That was my thing growing up. And until I started really realizing it and started looking into things, and you start hearing as you're getting older about mental health, it's like, for me, it was weird because all the feelings and the thoughts I've always used to have, there was just depression growing up. Like, there's just the talk of just depression. You didn't know anything else other than like depression. There wasn't talk of, for me anyways, like BPD.
Oh, no.
But then all of a sudden it was just there. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to it or what, but all of a sudden there was just people that were depressed. And then all of a sudden, boom, there's everything exploded, which is great. Now people can, go out and find out more things, and there's more avenues for people to talk to people and get help, which is amazing. But in my family, I know there's mental health issues. I know there's big issues with a lot of them, but it just wasn't discussed. And then all of a sudden, it was boom, it was there.
Yeah, you're like me. Everything back then was behind closed doors. Paint a pretty picture to go outside, and whatever happens in your house stays in your house.
That's it. And I think that for me, in my experience, that's what made it worse. Keep it inside. Don't talk about it. Deal with it yourself. It either go away or you'll forget about it. And it just, for me, it got worse and worse over the years, to where, it's taken like I've dug such a hole, just trying to climb out of it and just maintain where I'm just trying to get out of the hole, just to get even on an even playing field now. Yeah. Then I can start getting better. But trying to climb out of the hole, and it's quicksand some days.
Yeah, most days I find, yeah, exactly. You take a couple steps forward, and all of a sudden you're 10 steps back again. And then that again sets in your mind, and then you start replaying everything. I haven't gotten anything. I haven't improved. I'm never going to improve. And it's just that whole self-deprecating circle just starts and never ends again.
Yep. Oh, exactly. You just think there's a light, and then all of a sudden it's just something, something small, and then all of a sudden it's done again. So that's the biggest frustration for me. And the thing is, I'm not the only one, so I'm trying to wrap my head around, is like, there are avenues, there are people to talk to, which is not my favorite thing to do. I'm very sheltered when I talk to people about things, just because of, I like to keep quiet, observe. I mean, even last night I was talking, and I said, well, I have a thing to do. I was talking to my ex on the phone about our daughter, and I'm sitting beside Penny, and I said, well, I have a thing to do between 10:30 and 11:30. And I see her look over at me, and I got off the phone. She goes, you got an appointment tomorrow? So it's just this thing with Jody. I'm Skype podcast thing. She's like, since when? You didn't tell me. I'm like, I know. No, I see it. It's been, I don't know. We talked about it last week, me and Jody, and she doesn't understand why I don't tell her things like that. Just because I don't think it's, for me, it's like, I don't like talking about myself. It's not that I'm hiding anything. I just don't think like that, where I don't know. It's just nothing for me just to kind of just keep
Shut it
people.
down and not talk.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it's just because the subject matter, talking about this. I feel that she has to deal with my depression and social anxiety. She has to deal with all that stuff. I try to shelter her a little bit because I feel guilty. It's a lot on her and the family dealing with me. So if there's things I can kind of keep from her, not in a bad way, just kind of like so she doesn't have to think about it or worry about it.
She's wonderful, by the way. I really like her.
Oh,
She's
thank you.
very genuinely kind.
She is, and she, when I say I'm talking to Jody, she just tell Jody I say hi, and she's fantastic. She's been amazing. I've always said like she really more than my kids, and I love my kids, but I think she saved my life more than anybody. She pushed
came
me
in at the right time.
Yeah, I did, and she pushed me to talk more because I mean I had just gone 30 or so years like not talking about it, and I think it was just last year was if I wasn't for her, I don't think I would have made it out of last year. There's no way. Just because I was just I was just done, stressed out to the max, and I got to the point where I was just whatever happens at this point. And then, but yeah, talking to her, it opened up a world of different. It was like just a flood. Last year was just a flood of emotions, and then meeting yourself and going to the that conference that was amazing. To hear people and to talk to them, like that. You feel and you think that you're not the only one, but you feel like you're so isolated that you are.
Absolutely. Even when I said, like, you can feel, I have days where, like, I don't see anyone but my roommate and I can feel lonely as hell, but I can also go into a conference where we went to and be feeling just as lonely in that room full of 100 people.
Yep.
And it's nice to know in that environment that 80% of those people are also having or have had those thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. That is like I don't want to say comforting. That's not the right word because I don't wish this upon anybody. But it is kind of like it is a safe space. Get with a bunch of people that they have the same sort of issues that you're going through. Maybe not the exact same diagnosis, but in some way you all have that connection. And that felt when we went in October. That felt I was looking so forward to it, and then we went there. It was great to have that vibe. There was a vibe.
It's a judgment-free zone.
Yes, and then right after. It happened probably maybe later on the next day. It was such a letdown for a few weeks, just a nosedive for me.
Yeah.
Because, then it goes away.
Yes, like absolutely. I call it post-outing depression, and I get it very badly. It doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing. If it involves any sort of joy that I think I might be able to feel, as soon as it's over and you come back to reality, it just like slap in the face.
Absolutely. And then I saw some people on Twitter. They talked about it. I believe you were one of them too. You were saying the same thing. It's like that felt good to see or to know that I wasn't the only one for something like that. Like that, I never just thought about that until I saw other people talking about it. I was like, yeah, other people get that too. I mean, I get that from that conference.
It's like an adrenaline rush. Your body actually is producing adrenaline because you're having a good time, you're having fun, you're excited. And then on top of the mental crash, you get the physical crash from the lack of adrenaline.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it was just every day, like last year, every day was something new. It was just so crazy. But like, meeting you guys and talking with you guys, I mean, that has been an amazing outlet just to see, just to talk, to check in every week or two, say hi. It's like you have that connection. And that has been a bright spot. If there is a bright spot, I mean, that has been the bright spot for me, is to know that I can reach out and say hi to you, even if we don't talk about depression and going on, just to say hi. Because out of this,
talk about the Raptors,
exactly.
You can just reach out.
Yeah, and if there's a bright spot out of this devastating bullshit, it is meeting fantastic people like you and discussing it and trying to bring awareness however we can.
That's why I went, like, it took me a while. Like, I wanted to do a podcast, but then I was like, oh man, like, people reading my shit is one thing because I don't know, it's just there kind of thing, but listening just seems like a whole different aspect. And then you have that whole negativity, like, oh my god, who wants to listen to what I have to say? Like, honestly, I can't even handle what I have to say most days, so who the hell wants to listen to me? But it was just one of those things where I just kind of felt like maybe it would be a different avenue or a different venue for people to be able to speak out that are afraid to do so online on their Twitter profile or whatever. I've even said to people, like, if you want your story told and you don't want to come tell it to me, and I can tell it anonymously for you. I have no issue with that either. I just want people to be able to speak freely.
And that's the great thing about it, and that's why I read what you write, and I think you're a fantastic, amazing writer. And when you said that about this podcast, I'm like, yeah, that's like a natural progression for Jody. I was like, that's amazing, because now she done the writing thing and she continues to do that, and that's amazing. She's great. Now she's got her face out there too, and that's what I think for me is important, because you can read somebody's writing stuff, but to hear the words, to see the expressions on people's faces when they're saying, that I have major depression disorder. It's just a different, you can connect, you can hear it, in their face, like that, the emotion of a person's face and their body when they're saying it. I think that for you to do this is fantastic. I'm so happy that you're doing it.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm glad you came on.
Well, when I messaged you, I was asking you about Michael to come on. That amazing, and you'd be the guy to push it out there and get it so, like, he's been leading the charge for years now. And then you ask me, I'm like, again, when you asked me, it's like I got off, we stopped talking, like, why would she ask me? Like, what can I add? Like, there's nothing I can add to it. Like, I mean, what she writes, what she says, I don't need, like, I mean, there's nothing I can say that help anybody. But then, like, even last night, well, why am I doing this? Like, this is gonna bomb. Like, I'm gonna sound like an idiot. That's my head. I overthink things, overanalyze things. But I'm happy to be on here, and I'm happy to be talking to you more than anything. I'm just happy to see you and talking to you. I work every other weekend now, but I mean, it gives me like, I'm off during the week, a couple of days here and there during the week, so that part is okay. So I can get, when everybody else is working on it during the week, then I can sit down and sit on my fat ass. But then on the every other weekend, then I'm working, they're sitting on their asses. So
yeah, I hear you. How's the little guy doing?
He's doing really well. And that's big. Oh, he's huge. He's a little brute. But I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, I know the things when I grew up with my dad. Like, I'm trying not to pass it on to my son too. I mean, I have a daughter, and I know I've passed on some things to her. But I think for me, I'm more worried about son, because you treat your son differently. He's my son. He's a kid that it's not an accident. I'm not saying he's an accident, but he was just unexpected at our ages. Like, I was 39 when Penny got pregnant, and she was just turned 40, or she was going to turn 41, I believe. So, I mean, at that stage, I wasn't thinking, I was done having kids.
We're starting all over again, yeah.
Yeah. And then once we found out I had a boy, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Once I started going, that was the other thing. Once I started last year, I was like, I got to shelter him. I don't want him to see these things. I don't want to have things that I saw as a kid passed on to him. I don't want to change he's so innocent. He's so pure. I don't want to taint him, so, and then again, guilt feeling comes in. It's like, what are you doing? Like, so that was a part of last year as well. But yeah, he's fantastic. He's learning every day. He runs around like a little terror. Yeah, he's been a bright spot for my last year.
Well, you know what? Like, despite what you think, I think that when he's old enough, he's going to be like so proud that you were strong enough, because mental health by that time is going to be like serial conversation in the morning. He's going to be proud of you because you went to get help and you spoke out about getting help. And that's the hardest part for anyone. For me, I did it for years. After my mom died, I went to therapy. Then I went to another therapist, and I was partied for a couple of years. Then I went traveling for a couple of years, and nothing made the pain stop. It doesn't matter. The pain followed me to Colombia, in the deepest village in a small little town. I was still in agony. There's nothing to do but come face it.
And that's it. And you got to realize, it's unfortunate, but you got to realize you're going to have that. You're going to carry that with you. Like, I mean, that's where for the longest time, it took me a long time to just kind of accept the fact that this isn't something that is going to go away. You can't just
take a pill for depression and all of a sudden we're chemically balanced and happy again.
Yeah. And like, I was off and on meds at my own choosing, just because I was like, okay, well, either one, it was like, okay, it's not working, but I didn't give it a chance to work, or two, I've took it long enough. I should be fine now. And it doesn't work that way. It took a long time for me to realize that, okay, this is a lifelong thing now. This is like, it's like arthritis,
Yeah.
You're just going to have it, and it's not going away, but that's okay. You have to be okay with it as much as possible, and just accept the fact that you're wired a little differently. You're not a bad person. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just you're rewired differently than somebody else, and that's okay. You just need to take some medicine, and that's what I keep telling myself. It's okay. Some people take their vitamins in the morning. This is what you're taking.
If you broke your leg, you take a pain pill because it hurts. So your brain has an injury. Nobody
That's right.
wants to ever see it like that. That's exactly what it is. The brain is a muscle. It's an organ, and it gets an injury just like everything else. I was talking the other day about the scans, PET scans and CT scans, and the actual difference in the size and damage of a healthy brain and a BPD brain, for example. Just so hyper alert and hyperactive and hyper everything, hypersensitive and raw almost.
And that's it. I mean, and when I was, I don't know, a long time ago, I don't know, I'm not a big believer in like the astrological signs and stuff like that, but there's a few on, like, I'm a Pisces, and some of them say that, like, I think a few of those on the Pisces list is like, you're a dreamer, you're sensitive. That's bullshit. Like, I'm not that, but yeah, I am, because I'm everything. I feel like I'm everything, because depression and everything, you kind of are. Well, for me, I kind of am. Like, I can be that dreamer. I can be that oversensitive. When I'm in my dark periods, yeah, I'm oversensitive to get snappy or get angry, or I'm oversensitive where I'll see a commercial and I'll be like getting choked up,
You're like, what the hell? Why am I crying at the Bell commercial?
yeah, exactly. Like the Tim Hortons Christmas commercials or Canadian Tire Christmas commercials.
Yeah.
Be welling up. I'm like, what the hell are you? What's wrong with you? But I mean, it is what it is now, and that's okay. It's I don't go talk about it at work, but there's this one lady where she's on my Facebook friends list, and in the last few weeks she was posting stuff about mental illness, and it's okay and stuff. And I finally, there was like a bit of a downtime at work, and I talked to her. I said, listen, I don't. You can tell me that it's none of my business or anything, but I had noticed a few things on your Facebook and about like depression and stuff. I said, is that something that you have to deal with? She said, yeah, it's my daughter. And we talked about it. And I said, well, you know what? That's me. I have it too. She goes, yeah, I kind of saw some things you posted and stuff. So I think that for me, that was my entryway to like talking. And because I talk about it at home, I talk about it with family. I think to talk about it a bit at work too, to kind of have that part of my life that I'm not sheltered at work. I can talk to her kind of thing. It kind of, that to me, that kind of made it a little bit easier.
Probably made it a lot easier for her as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there's an avenue that she can talk, because I mean, I think just to, like, for me, we deal with it every day, but so do like our spouses, our brothers and sisters. They deal with it. They deal with us. So they're just as invested in it as we are. It may be us going through like the biggest, the hardest part, but it's just as hard on them. I think it's great to talk, and that's why I felt like I talked to her at work. So then now it's another part of me. I don't have to go out, and if she sees that I'm not good, and she says there's been a couple of days where I've seen you and you're not as talkative, you're kind of introverted, and you're kind of like sullen looking. Like I'm a person that you can tell what mood I'm in, happier or mad or sad.
Me too.
I just have it on my face, and I can't hide it. Although I think I do hide it, I really am not. So it's good to have that part of my life. There's at least one person at work that I could talk to if need be, and
that's huge, because what, maybe not necessarily now, but maybe that conversation will extend to another person someday, and then they will extend that same hand to another person. It's hard. I spoke with a firefighter in PTSD, and he was saying the same thing. Like, firefighters are mentally men. You can't just tell them, depression this and depression that. You have to provide them like a tangible solution, because that's how their minds work as mentally men who run into fire. As if you do that and you're not supposed to cry, or you're not supposed to have any emotion, you're not supposed to, you see the most awful things, but you're just supposed to shove it all down.
I couldn't imagine that. I know I couldn't do it. I couldn't be a cop. I couldn't be a firefighter or EMS or anything. I couldn't do that, just because there'd be certain scenes I would roll up on, and I know I would deal with it. I would help it. I know that about but that would affect me, and I'd be done. I couldn't do it. I think those people that do those are those strongest people that are out there that can do that. And got nothing but respect for them to continue to do that. One of the most moving
I
things.
know Michael's had some conversations with the chief of police in Toronto and actually gone and spoken to a bunch of recruits and shit like that. So hopefully with the younger generation coming in, they'll be a little bit more aware of kind of what to expect. It's almost unavoidable in that type of work. So now all you can do is prepare for it the best you can and get ready to deal with it.
Yeah, it's like your brain. You got to train your brain to react a certain way. It's you got to work out your brain as much as you work out your body, and as much as you take care of your body. It's just when we went to that conference back in October last year, Natalie Harris, like hearing her story, that was phenomenal.
Yeah, she's an amazingly strong woman.
Yeah, I was blown away. I mean, I was blown away by everybody, but like that one really, like her story was just wow. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was tearing up, and I know Penny, she was tearing up, and Penny, after she got finished speaking, she went up and talked to her, gave her a hug and everything. It's like that's what we need. I think we need guys to do that too. We need guys that have to be out there and high profile ones. I mean, I know there's some actors that come out and talk about it, and Michael has come out and he's huge. But there needs to be a lot more guys that come out and say it, because I don't know what the stats are. I'm not a big stats guy for that, but there's got to be tons of pressed athletes, men athletes and actors, to come out, and there has to be men that come out and talk about it. Because when I go to work, you can tell that you can just tell there's certain ones and they just shut down, and there's a lot of male suicides because of it.
Absolutely. The numbers are huge right now.
It needs to be okay to talk about it. So anything I could ever do, however small or big or whatever, if ever I can do anything, I want to do that. I want to help it as much as I possibly can.
Well, I think even just on a tiny podcast like this, having guys on that are willing to speak, it's not going to get to anyone big by any means, but maybe it'll get to someone small, and enough small voices makes a big voice.
That's right. We're getting the ball rolling, right? That's all you can do is push the small snowball at the top of the hill. You push it down, and it's going to get bigger. And so hopefully that's what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see your podcast blow up. That'd be great. Blow up and get all out there, and everybody sees it. I would love for that to happen for you. And anytime that you need any suggestions or help or anything, you always reach out to me, and I'll always help you in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I figured that I will definitely be having you back on in a couple of months. I'm going to run through my list, and then I'm going to go back. I have a bunch of people who want to come back on, so I definitely would like to have you back on. I think BPD is a huge thing that needs just absolutely so much more conversation, because it is so stigmatized compared to so many other illnesses. You look it up online, you read you're manipulative, you're malicious, that you're this, you're that. It looks like a death sentence when you receive it if you just look it up, right? So maybe by talking with people about it and people who live it, that will educate some people that it's not what they think it is, what the media has made it out to be.
Yeah, you got movies like what was that movie that like Split and all that. I mean, it's a good movie, but I mean it's a real thing, like having split personalities and stuff, and like multiple personalities and everything. Like that's an actual illness,
and that person was severely traumatized.
Yeah, so I mean it's like stuff like that. I mean, while it's a good movie, it's still kind of, I don't know. I look at it like, maybe it's just my opinion. You look at that and you're making money off somebody who dramatizing it and you're fictionalizing it. But people out there do have multiple personalities, and it made the guy out to be a monster at the end, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just my opinion.
No, I think it's the same way. There's not very many portrayals of mental health that have been done well through the movies or TV. Making an occasional one here and there, but pretty much it's addicts. And if you are dealing with what they're talking about, it's almost insulting and off-putting in a way, right? Because you're just like, no, we're not like this. Don't stop advertising us to be like these malicious, horrible, manipulative people. Because that's really not how it is.
No, we're just people that just want to live day by day and like go to work, do what you got to do. But then at the end of the day, they're making money. They're actors. We just happen to be actors that go to work. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Because that's all I've been doing for the past 30 years is acting. Acting like I'm okay and acting like everything's just hunky dory. And inside, you're just kind of getting torn apart. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for my friend. I appreciate your time so much, and it's so nice to actually see you again. We're on video,
Oh,
by the way, because usually my podcasts are not on video, but I wanted to see you, and you wanted to see me, so we're happy.
I appreciate you having me on. It wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be.
Nah, I told you it'd be no problem, just a conversation.
Yeah, no, I feel comfortable talking to you. You're such an amazing person, and I look up to you, and you're an inspiration and a hero to me. So I
Thank
really
you so
enjoy.
much. It's nice to hear.
No problem. Anytime I can help you out with in any way, just reach out.
Always, same goes my way. If you need anything, you know where I am 24/7.
Yes, I do. Thank you,
All
Jody.
right, my friend. Sending you much love.
Same to you.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye, honey. Well, as we wrap up the show, I would like to give a special thanks to our guest, Dennis Ellis, for sharing his time and his story with us. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss another episode. If you have any comments or questions or wish to be a guest on the show, you can message me at OneLastKick71 on Twitter, Jody B on Facebook, or through my website, jodybetty.com. Links can be found on the podcast website. Thank you for spending your time with us. Hopefully we can help to eliminate or at least reduce the stigma around mental health. Until next time, be well.